Petitions. Member for Oshawa.
Thank you, Speaker. And I have a significant petition to the Legislative Assembly of Ontario entitled Ask the Government to Ensure N95 Masks and Needed Medical Supplies are Manufactured in Ontario. Whereas COVID-19 is recognized as a global pandemic, and whereas the medical community and public health authorities recognize the transmission of the COVID-19 virus is inhibited by precautionary use of personal protective equipment, PPE, and respirator masks known as KN95 or N95 masks are recommended for frontline healthcare and first responders interfacing with people in the community or care, and whereas frontline healthcare and emergency workers, including hospital workers, nurses, paramedics, police and fire services throughout the pandemic have reported N95 mask shortages, quality concerns, fit challenges, and are all finding it difficult to procure their own supplies of reliable and appropriate PPE, and the ongoing shortage of necessary medical equipment and PPE, especially N95 masks, is endangering patients and frontline workers in the community. And whereas the Canadian government has reported a shortage as high as 150 million N95 masks and has been unsuccessful in procuring N95 masks and is still unable to find reliable American or international suppliers, and whereas the Premier of Ontario has publicly acknowledged the need for provincial manufacturing and self-reliance, but to date has not taken direct action to ensure N95 masks are manufactured here, and whereas community advocates, the MPP of Oshawa and Green Jobs Oshawa have called on General Motors to manufacture PPE at the nearly empty GM facility in Oshawa, where there are thousands of laid-off GM and supplier workers available to manufacture equipment and supplies to keep Canadians healthy and protected, and there are millions of square feet available at the Oshawa Assembly Complex. And, Speaker, whereas General Motors converted their operations and restarted manufacturing in Warren, Michigan to make protective masks, including N95 masks, but have only committed to manufacturing Level 1 masks in Oshawa, and whereas the Government of Ontario has given itself the authority to exercise emergency powers but has not yet secured manufacturing, despite the fact we have seen that American government involvement has been effective in securing contracts with General Motors to make N95 masks for Americans, and whereas relying on private and corporate partners does not guarantee the continuation or sustainability of supply, and planning for a future of government and publicly owned manufacturing is in the best interest of all Canadians, and whereas, despite the seemingly unabating need for a reliable domestic supply of PPE and N95 masks, there is not yet any significant manufacturing of N95 masks in Ontario or in Canada, Speaker, we, the undersigned, petition the Legislative Assembly of Ontario as follows: to increase the permanent manufacturing capacity in Canada and secure a supply of medical equipment, personal protective equipment, and socially beneficial products during the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond, and use their powers and influence to ensure General Motors increase production of PPE in Oshawa to meet the needs of Canadians, and to ensure that, as they do in Warren, Michigan, General Motors will manufacture N95 masks and needed PPE at their complex in Oshawa. Speaker, I wholeheartedly support this petition. I will affix my signature and send it to the table. Thank you.